Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. But before we head over to the arena, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors of the show, Group Therapy Bike Tours and Slim Chickens. We'll start with Group Therapy. They are all in on the Nebraska basketball wave. Head over to grouptherapybiketours.com and book your ride today for all of your pregame, post-game, whenever game, birthday party, wedding, family reunion, corporate event. They have a 15-person trolley ride, a 6-person mini bike for whatever event you want to celebrate. And like I said, it is full force in Nebraska. If you've gone to a Nebraska game, I'm sure you've seen the trolleys riding around the Haymarket and downtown Lincoln. If you go over to grouptherapybiketours.com and use the promo code NebraskaBall, you will save 15% on your first ride. So make sure you head on over there and support our great sponsor. It's a ton of fun. I've been on it several times. Could not recommend it enough. Now over to our other sponsors, Slim Chickens. Bill Hooks and his wife Stacy are diehard Nebraska fans, and they couldn't wait to jump on the Nebraska basketball train. Locally owned Slim Chickens has 2 locations, 84th and Old Cheney and 16th and Pine Lake. Slim Chickens features a variety of options with fried and grilled chicken tenders, wings, salads, wraps, sandwiches, chicken and waffles, and southern sides. What makes Slim's different? Well, they have over 17 different dipping sauces for guests to choose their favorite. Slim Chickens is available for dine-in, drive-thru, or delivery via their online ordering. Check out Slim Chickens app and start earning rewards today. Slim Chickens is always a favorite for large gatherings and tailgate parties, especially Nebraska basketball tailgate parties, and let them do the cooking for you. Slim Chickens is moving forward, and they are expanding to the north side of Lincoln soon, so keep an eye out for that. Stop into your local Slim Chickens restaurant today for some southern hospitality and see their newly remodeled locations. Again, thanks to all our sponsors. Now let's head over to the arena and take you courtside with me, Rob and Washut. Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut here at Pinnacle Bank Arena, getting ready for Nebraska versus Purdue. Yet another top 15 home game for the Huskers and another massive opportunity for a statement victory to further solidify their NCAA tournament positioning, continue to stay in the race for a Big Ten regular season championship, and obviously try to solidify their top 4 seed for a, I guess now, triple bye in the Big Ten tournament. So a lot at stake for the Huskers in this one, and this is an interesting game because Purdue has always been a unique dynamic in the sense that when Nebraska plays at Mackey, it usually does not go well. In fact, they lost by 36 points last time they played there a season ago. But when they play Purdue here, for whatever reason, Nebraska's got like the perfect game plan for whatever Purdue wants to throw at them. And this is a unique one because for the first time in what seems like 8 years, Purdue doesn't have some 7'5" monster center that changes the entire game plan of how you defend them. Zach Edey is gone back in the NBA, and Purdue is a different team now, where they're a little bit more guard-oriented, obviously, with All-American, first-team All-Big Ten, Big Ten Player of the Year front-runner, Braden Smith running the show. He's arguably the best point guard in all of college basketball, one of the best overall players in the country. He's the head of the snake, and then Trey Kaufman-Renn. He was a preseason All-Big Ten guy, considered by many, including myself, as maybe one of the leading candidates to be the Big Ten Player of the Year this year. He's kind of had a disappointing season to date, but he's still an elite talent. And then the other kind of X factor for Purdue is Fletcher Lawyer, the guard that is kind of the difference maker, in my opinion, for what makes Purdue a good team to a potentially great team, because you saw when they were struggling this year and they lost 3 in a row, and even a couple of games before that, he had a streak of, I don't even know what it was, like 5 or 6 games scoring in single digits. And then when they flipped the switch over these last 2, he scored 29 points and 18 points in their last 2 wins. So this was kind of an interesting thing to watch because Nebraska doesn't have to commit so much resources to defending the paint. Now, obviously, Trey Kaufman-Renn, you got to defend the paint, otherwise he will eat you up alive. And, Clough, the big man, he's 6'10", 250, so they still have size. Like, I'm not trying to paint it that way, but they don't have that, like, we need to triple team the center every time he touches the ball type size. So how Nebraska, this is unique in that how they defend the perimeter is going to be maybe more important than how they defend the paint, which you don't usually say when you're playing Purdue. Usually it's like you have to take away the paint and hope they miss threes. Well, now you got to shut down Braden Smith. He's the head of the snake. He's the guy that does it all for them. And got to, one, stop him from scoring. His average is 17 a game. Two, he's also second in the nation in assists. So when you take away the shot, you also have to be cognizant of the guys around him. And then Lawyer is at the top of that list for me, because when he drives and gets into the pocket, as Fred Hoiberg says, he's as good of a distributor as there is in the Big Ten and maybe in all of college basketball, which, when you average over 8 assists per game, that kind of goes without saying. So how Nebraska, one, takes away Braden Smith, and then two, defends the plan B, where you stop him as a scorer, but then you got to fire out on the perimeter and make sure you take away those kick-out threes, because Purdue, that's when they're at their best, then they're hitting that, because then they start hitting those threes. All of a sudden the paint opens up for one-on-one matches for Kaufman-Wren, and then they're really difficult to defend. So this is one of those games where obviously you look on the other end of the floor, Rink Mast has to hit his threes, because Purdue has really struggled defending the three, especially bigs that shoot it well. And Rink's gone a long time without really taking the lid off. If there was going to be a night to do it, this is it, because that is probably Purdue's biggest weakness, is defending the three-point shot. And if he can finally find a way to knock down 3, 4, 5, maybe even more threes, it changes everything for Nebraska. And then on the other end, it changes everything for Purdue, because they have to go out of their comfort zone defensively and get those bigs out of the paint, and then it opens everything up for everybody else. So this is one of those games where it's kind of an obvious one. But Rink is the X factor on offense, but the X factor on defense is the level of intensity that Nebraska plays with, especially on the perimeter, with their closeout, with their rotations, with their stopping the dribble drive from Braden Smith to let him do his thing where he gets the ball in the paint and then is a triple threat scorer. Like that's kind of the MO for Nebraska tonight, is maintaining elite defensive effort and intensity for a full 40 minutes. This is one of the most efficient offenses that they're facing in all of college basketball. I think they rank third in adjusted offensive efficiency. They just do a lot of things really well. And so you take away Smith, okay, well then you got to worry about Kaufman-Wren, then you got to worry about Lawyer, then you got to worry about C.J. Cox. So like Purdue's there's a reason they were picked by many, myself included, as the preseason pick to win it all this year, to win the league this year. And while they've kind of struggled a little bit to find that groove, their ceiling is still at that level. Their ceiling is still right up there to compete with anybody in this conference. And if you compete with anybody in this conference, you compete with anybody in the country. So this is a massive challenge for Nebraska on both ends, but it's not an overwhelming one. I don't think it's a daunting, how are they going to pull this off type thing, because I think Nebraska does a lot of things that gives Purdue problems, especially with the way that they defend. Again, it goes back to playing defense the way that you've proven that you're capable of playing defense. And then the next part of it is, hitting threes. And they hit threes at an exceptional rate at home, especially when they get in those hot streaks. Rink Mast is the difference maker, but I look at Price Sanford as, I don't know if Purdue's got a guy that can defend him, to be honest with you. I mean, unless you put Braden Smith on him for a full 40 minutes, well, guess what? Then that leaves Jamarcus Lawrence and Sam Hoiberg, who's averaging like 13, 14 points a game over this last few couple months. I mean, I think that Nebraska's got, if you talk about some of the matchup problems Purdue has, well, I think Nebraska's got just as many. Braden Frager. This could be a huge Braden Frager game, where not just his three-point shooting, but, if they hit those shots to open up the lane, he could feast on some one-on-one matchups. And he's athletic as anybody Purdue has. And he can beat any of their guys off the dribble, especially if that ankle is back to full force. And I'll give you a little preview here. They're just getting up shots. You see over there on the bench, there's Braden. He was obviously, or like always, the first guy out here getting up shots. So I would assume that he's progressing, better and better each day. And if he can get back to what makes him such an X factor, and that's the dribble drive, the physicality, attacking the basket. And you go back last time they played here against Illinois, yeah, sure, he made 6 threes, but 12 three-point attempts. He didn't even try to get the ball to the rack. And he struggled with his three-point shot at Rutgers, but he still found a couple of occasions where he did get to the lane and made some dribble drives and made back cuts to get the ball underneath the rim and finish. That is what he's got to get to. He's got to be a threat as a three-point shooter, but then also that other element where he can attack, get Purdue in foul trouble, get to the free throw line, and just exploit the ripple effect of good three-point shooting that Nebraska could have. So that's kind of the recipe for me on both ends. And then, like always, PBA crowd. I expect it to be absolutely electric. It is a 6 o'clock Tuesday game. You know, it doesn't seem all that ideal, but when I pulled up here, it was a little bit before, about 3:45 p.m. So, you know, just over 2 hours before tip. The line for the student section was wrapped from the door all the way down to 8th Street. And I guarantee you it's probably gotten even bigger at this point. So you're talking about another sold out, raucous, electric crowd. Looks like the students get some red t-shirts today. So it should be a dynamic environment. And again, Purdue has struggled. When PBA's rocking and, you know, Nebraska's got that mojo going, that home court PBA magic going, Purdue, for whatever reason, you know, they've played in some of the biggest venues out there. For whatever reason, it kind of throws them off their game. So you got to hope that happens again, where a Purdue team that's lost 3 in a row, won 2 straight, they're trying to get their rhythm back, that maybe you can shell shock them a little bit and disrupt their rhythm and make them kind of have to force it a little bit on both ends. And if Nebraska can do that, I like their chances. 1.5 point favorite, that's essentially a coin toss, given the home court edge. But this is a game where if Nebraska does all the things that it's capable of doing, I think it's got a very good chance not just to win this game, but to win it, I'm not going to say by like 15, but, you know, relatively comfortable to where, you know, they've got it in hand within the final minute. But again, a lot of work to be done for that to happen. And again, rink mast, now's your night. He'll tell you, he'll be the first to tell you he's struggled with his 3-point shot. He got 26 points at Rutgers. He saw the ball go in a lot. Now he's got to do it from 3, because when Rink is hitting threes, Nebraska's offense becomes almost impossible to defend, especially for a Purdue team that struggles against all the things Nebraska does very well. I'm going to sign off for right now. Thanks again to our sponsors, Group Therapy Bike Tours, Slim Chickens, some of the best entertainment and best chicken you're going to find in town. Great friends of the show. Tune in after the game for my post-game analysis, and let's have some fun tonight.